Welcome to the Digital Academy. Today we're going to be looking at in this video, what does it mean to be stoic? What does this stoic philosophy entitle? And, what could it possibly add to our mental self-defense? Let's check this out. Love you guys. Thanks for checking this out. If you like this video, there's more videos like this. If you don't like this video, there's a big internet out there. But I hope you do, because I'm just trying to aim these at people that are, trying to take a few minutes to have a thought that maybe they weren't having before, and work towards, I don't know what I've been trying to say here, a more stoic, a more digital academy. It's like we're trying to work on here our ability to navigate this complex social world that's ever more digital, that's ever more chaotic. Okay, so that was a rambly introduction. Love you guys. Thanks for checking this out. Let's get into the video. Digital Academy. Love you, my family. Let's do this.
You've been stranded thousands of miles from home with no money or possessions. Such a predicament would make many people despair and curse their awful fate. But for Zeno of Cyprus, it became the foundation of his life's work and legacy. The once wealthy merchant lost everything when he was shipwrecked in Athens around...
I think Zeno was the guy that said, and they might talk about this, but okay, if we're racing from point A to point B, and if you can divide the space between point A and okay, so you can say, okay, me and you are going to run from here to the other side of the rim. You could take that distance and cut it in half, and then you could take that half distance and cut it into a quarter, and then an eighth, and then a 16th, and 32nd, and then a 64, and then whatever 128, and then you keep going 264, and keep going, or 256, whatever the math is. Then you're basically what you're saying is you can make those divisions smaller, so much at an infantential level, so that there's so many steps between here to there that you couldn't even cover the distance. And it's like this mathematical thought experiment. Obviously you could, but this is
300 BCE. With not much else to do, he wandered into a bookshop, became intrigued by reading about Socrates, and proceeded to seek out and study with the city's noted philosophers.
Wouldn't you love to walk into the bookstore that Zeno walked into? What a bookstore 2,000 years ago would be like?
As Zeno began educating his own students, he originated the philosophy known as Stoicism, whose teachings of virtue, tolerance, and self-control have inspired generations of thinkers and leaders. The name Stoicism comes from the Stoa Poikile, the decorated public colonnade where Zeno and his disciples gathered for discussion.
Oh, cool.
Today, we colloquially use the word stoic to mean someone who remains calm under pressure and...
If you're a basketball fan, you heard the word stoic used to describe Kawhi Leonard all the time last year, right? And as you can see from my wall, in case you missed it, We the North here in Kitchener, see my Raptor merchandise or whatever. It's like, man, it was an absolute pleasure to watch Kawhi Leonard last year. Look at how that dude performed under immense pressure. And you look at his face when he's under immense pressure, and it looks like it's like a casual practice. And you look at him when it's a casual practice, and it looks like he's under immense pressure. It's like he's the same guy all the time. It's almost the exact, at least in terms of if you're trying to get your head around what it means, it's almost like the exact opposite of being super emotional. Although it's not being unemotional. It's not a lack of emotion. It's a lack of being overpowered by emotion. It's an ability to regulate emotion, right? It's not a lack of emotion. Because if you didn't have any emotion, who cares if you can control it? It's like, no, when you're in I use the sport example, when you're in the fourth quarter of a close game and you have the ball, you need to be all systems go, but you also need to be calm, mentally, stoic. Right? Stoics weren't lazy. This is like a
avoids emotional
mentality.
extremes. But while this captures
Avoid
important
emotional
aspects of
extremes.
Stoicism, the original philosophy was more than just an attitude. The Stoics believed that everything around us operates according to a web of cause and effect, resulting in a rational structure of the universe, which they called logos.
Logos.
And while
Logos. Right? You can obviously see how that word is almost the same word as logic. And you can see how that's like that ology at the end of like psychology, sociology. It's like the study of logos. Logos is this truth, logic. Man, that's a fascinating Greek concept that there actually is a pathway towards truth. There's a logos. Well, you know, if you were going to say this in a Christian way, there's a God intelligence. Things aren't just random. Right now, obviously, Greek philosophy predates Christianity, so this isn't. Although the idea of logos is huge in the Old Testament. So, anyways, I'm not trying to turn this into religious, but it's like our ancestors were very religious. So to think that these concepts are completely unrelated is crazy. The counter influence of, say, Christianity with Greek philosophy is huge, right? Because if you think of where did Christianity, at least at its start, well, you call it Roman Catholicism, right? The relationship between the Romans and the Greeks is basically what we call the classics. That their relationship is hugely important, hugely influential.
while we may not always have control over the events affecting us, we can have control over how we approach things. Rather than imagining an ideal society, the Stoic tries to deal with the world as it is, while pursuing self-improvement through 4 cardinal virtues. Practical wisdom, the ability to navigate complex situations in a logical, informed, and calm manner. Temperance, the exercise of self-restraint and moderation in all aspects of life. Justice, treating others with fairness even when they have done wrong. And courage, not just in extraordinary circumstances, but
Man, all religion, all politics, all individual differences aside, could we as a society get behind these 4 things? There's a lot of talk right now around justice, as there needs to be. Justice, courage, temperance, right? Like having a little bit of emotional regulation and control, and long distance thinking, and forgiveness. Maybe not forgiveness as much as understanding, and then wisdom. But notice that he said very specifically practical wisdom, right? And notice that doesn't say knowledge. It's not just about, have you read books? It's like, have you read books or learned things that you can immediately apply as practical wisdom? So cardinal virtues, think about what that means too, is like a cardinal means like directional. So that means like, if you knew these 4 things, if it was a map and it was like, well, first you go to wisdom, then you turn, you go to temperance, then you turn and go to justice, then you turn and you get to courage. It's like cardinal map would mean that there might be other things on the map, but those 4 directional points will get you there. It's like, that's kind of this point, right? It's like, this is a complex world we live in. Our life's complex. Trying to be a good employee and a good husband and a good dad and a friend and a son and a teammate and whatever, right? And a teacher and a YouTuber and a whatever. It's like, there's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of, at times, competing responsibilities and motivations. And maybe I need to make, if any artists out there, that right there, that image right there would be an awesome poster. Wisdom, temperance, justice, courage.
Facing daily challenges with clarity and integrity. As Seneca, one of the most famous Roman Stoics, wrote, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. But while Stoicism focuses,
think about that in relation to things like depression and suicide and people that are in really dark places, sometimes just the Strength to keep trying is courage. And keep trying. If this has relevance to you specifically, because one thing I've learned in life is every bad mood I've ever been in has ended. And sorry if that was awkward, because I, for some reason, thought I should lean right in when I say that, but I think it's important to say that when we're in a shitty mood, and sorry for swearing, I actually swore in the last video too, and I should try to keep that under control, because some of you might be listening with your kids around, so, not to be lame, but there's no need to drop swear words if I don't need to. But yeah, sometimes it's about just trusting that tomorrow will be different. Wu-Tang has an album called A Better Tomorrow. I think that's an awesome hashtag. I don't know if anyone uses this hashtag, but that's an awesome saying.
On personal improvement, it's not a self-centered philosophy. At a time when Roman laws considered slaves as property, Seneca called for their humane treatment and stressed that we all share the same fundamental humanity. Nor does Stoicism encourage passivity. The idea is that only people who have cultivated virtue and self-control in themselves can bring positive change in others. One of the most famous Stoic writers was also one of Rome's greatest emperors. Over the course of his 19-year reign, Stoicism gave Marcus Aurelius the resolve to lead the empire through two major wars.
Sorry, my wife just asked me a question, but this video is almost done, so I just want to get through this last minute so that we can render this out, get it to you guys. So let's check this out quick. So they're just talking about Marcus Aurelius.
While dealing with the loss of many of his children. Centuries later, Marcus's journals would guide and comfort Nelson Mandela through his 27-year imprisonment during his struggle for racial equality in South Africa.
Well, I didn't know Mandela read the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. See, again, what a fascinating connection. That Mandela, this great man, great man for all these other reasons, all these things that he did that have such relevance today. It's like he was reading Marcus Aurelius. That's so cool.
After his release and eventual victory, Mandela stressed peace and reconciliation, believing that while the injustices of the past couldn't be changed, his people could confront them in the present and seek to build a better, more just future. Stoicism was an active school of philosophy for several centuries in Greece and Rome. As a formal institution, it faded away, but its influence has continued to this day. Christian theologians such as Thomas Aquinas have admired and adopted its focus on the
yeah, the Thomas Aquinas, I didn't know if they were going to touch on this, but this is an interesting connection. Right, so here he has, on the left, you can see the same four we talked about earlier: wisdom, temperance, justice, and courage. And then on the right, faith, charity, and hope.
Virtues. And there are parallels between Stoic ataraxia, or tranquility of mind, and the Buddhist concept of nirvana. One particularly influential Stoic was the philosopher Epictetus, who wrote that suffering stems not from the events in our lives, but from our judgments about them. This has resonated strongly with modern psychology and the self-help movement. For example, rational emotive behavioral therapy focuses on changing the self-defeating attitudes people form about their life circumstances. There's also Viktor Frankl's logotherapy. Informed by Frankl's own time as a concentration camp prisoner, logotherapy is based on the Stoic principle that we can harness our willpower to fill our lives with meaning, even in the bleakest situations.
Yep. The great Viktor Frankl. Final note, I would highly recommend Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. As you can hear, my wife and kid are up now. So that means Digital Academy's on pause for a little bit. But love you guys, take care, and see you soon.